Hello there, and I hope everybody's doing better than Penny is. She's right over there, and if you notice or look real quickly, you might be able to recognize she's wearing an Elizabethan collar. She's got a corneal abrasion, and she's not happy. So imagine going around with that thing over your head, if that makes any of you feel better than what you're doing right now. I don't know. For those of you who have dogs, you understand, I think, better than those of you who don't have dogs. But just imagine what it must be like when you can't do anything unless you've got that thing all 24 hours a day. She's got to wear it for another couple of weeks. Anyway, um, I was thinking today, in fact, I actually made a comment to myself a few days ago about, gee, I need to do something, but I don't have the time. And I got to thinking about that and was going off on another thing about people who wait until the last minute do things, and they say that that's when they do their best work, and this whole thing sort of got wrapped around that particular comment. But I want to start talking about that first part before we end up to the last minute of doing things. I'm going to guess that the majority of you, maybe not all of you, but many of you have had something, I know I have, at the point in time in which you say something like, I can't do this right now, I don't have the time, I've got too much to do, and then you get stuck at the last minute and you've got to get it done, right? Been there? Done that? Let's think about this. Seriously think about this. What happens in this particular process? So you're going along and you got a paper to write, a presentation to write, you've got something that you need to do, whatever that task may be, you've got a preparation that you've got to do for somebody else. And you say you need to work on it, but I don't have it, like it's supposed to be done Friday, and you just wait and you don't start doing it until Wednesday night, Thursday maybe. But what happens? Let's think about this. You get to that point in which you say, oh, it's due tomorrow or 2 days or whatever your time frame is. And then you pretty much, in a sense, go into isolation. You shut down, you do whatever it is, and basically get yourself into a situation in which you work intensely on that particular project, right? Now that I've said something about this, does anybody see anything that's really strange about this? Really, it doesn't make sense. It's illogical. Because if you've got the ability to basically, in a sense, shut down and tell everybody to go away, you're busy doing things, you've got to work on a project or some such thing like that, and for maybe 24, 48 hours and focus on that thing and don't do any of those other things that you've been putting off. What do you mean when you say you couldn't do that? What do you mean when you say you couldn't cancel, you couldn't rearrange your schedule? You just did. Not only did you just do it, you did it to everything. You begin to see the contradiction here? So if you've got something to do in 2 weeks or 2 months or whatever it is, and you're saying, I can't change this because I don't have the time, but yet you're going to find time 48 hours before it's due, is that logical? No. So let's talk about that. So think about this. What's going on? The odds are is either A, you need to have something right smack dab in your face and say, okay, I've got to do it. In other words, your time management shot. Okay, you got that. So either you don't know how to plan for it, or you're not willing to do it, or you don't see the importance of it, or something along the line. You don't know how to possibly break that task down into smaller pieces. Because I think that what a lot of people do, at least when I look at the students I've had in the past, what they tend to think in terms of that when you do get to that last minute crunch, you end up having to do the whole thing. So let's just say you've got 48 hours to do the whole project. And so you do everything from beginning to end in 48 hours. Okay. Let's take a look at whatever that project is and break it down into smaller sections. What can you do in bits and pieces of time? Because you really probably don't need to do everything in 48 hours. Most tasks are not set up that way. Now, granted, there are going to be certain tasks, you can't like say do dishes. Well, with the dishwasher anyway, you can't like go halfway through the dishwasher and well, I guess you could if it was you unplug it and everything else like that. But generally speaking, you don't put things in the dishwasher and just stop it halfway through and then wait for 3 days to finish it up. You go in and you do it. Now, granted, yes, there are things like that. But usually when you have tasks, there are certain things that you can break down into smaller segments. So I'm going to suggest that what you take a look at your tasks and break them down into either time or tasks, whatever it may work out to be. So let's just say you've got a presentation you've got to give in 2 weeks or whatever. Do you know what you want to talk about? Do you have a specific topic? Do you need to have research done on it? What are those things that are going to go into that particular presentation that you need to do in order to complete that particular presentation? So write down the steps to that. Now, I would suggest you take, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, depending on the size of the task, and break it down and identify those little things that you have to do to get that specific task done. So if you've got a presentation to make, what do you need to do to get it done? Do you have to do research first? Do you have to go get somebody else's permission? Do you have to go find pictures? Do you have to do whatever? What are the things that you need to do to get that task done? Now, there'll probably be a few things that you don't think about that'll come later. But if you sort of take a look at all those tasks and then put them in some kind of, I hesitate to use the word outline because a lot of students seem to have, outline becomes kind of like a four-letter word, so to speak. I don't like outlines. A sequence of events, maybe perhaps if you prefer the term. What are those things you have to do in sequence to get something done? What are those things that you need to do that may not necessarily depend on a specific sequence, but need to be done to get something finished? So let's say you need to find pictures, or you need to find research or whatever. It may not matter whether you find the pictures first or do the research on the articles first, or whether you do the articles. In some cases it might. In some cases it might not. So that you're looking at the tasks that you need to do and creating some kind of a sequence. And sorry if I offend some of you, an outline of what needs to be done. Start that one again. Create an outline of what needs to be done to finish that task. Then set up a sequence. And then you take a look at the time you've got to do it and see if you can schedule those smaller tasks at different points in time so that you don't have to do everything at the last minute. Now, some of you are going to say, well, I do my best work at the last minute. Maybe. We can talk about that because I can pretty much tell you that generally speaking, that's not going to be the issue. There's something else that's going on. Again, if you thought about it, you might figure this out, but we'll talk about it soon. But usually, well, all right, let me toss this out. If you do your best work at the last minute, I wonder what would happen if you gave yourself more time to do it. Would you do a better job? How many times have you done something at the last minute and then looked at it later and said, well, if I had more time, I could have, or I really messed this up and I really would have liked to have done this, and I could have polished it more if I had more time. So what would have happened if you gave yourself more time to get that done? You could probably do a better job. I know very few people who come in and once they finish that task at the last minute, they say, well, I could have done a better job if. Almost invariably, my students, when they come to that point, they usually end up with saying, I could have done a better job if. So let's take a look at the if at some point. And again, what are those things that you need to do to get a really good job on that task, wherever it is? Again, add those to your list. You can usually give yourself 15, 20 minutes during the course of a day, should you take the time to do it and finish it so you get it done, and nothing's one big thing that you're getting all done all at one time. Now, the other part to it is, and this is where some of you aren't going to be happy, is schedule the time to do it. And schedule the time as if it was an appointment with a doctor or somebody else. Just recently, when I was taking her down, or getting the appointment to take her to the vet because I knew something was wrong. And then when I called up to get the appointment, we went through the issue that all of you have been through before. The vet clerk said, okay, what about this day and this time? No, we've got this. I'm busy. What about this one? And finally, we came up with a time that was mutually acceptable. Schedule some tasks that's going to say, okay, today at 2:30, I'm going to go look for the pictures I need for my presentation. Give yourself 30 minutes. Then when something comes up, all you need to do is say, sorry, I've got something else I need to do at that point. You've got an appointment with yourself. You don't have to tell anybody that it's an appointment with yourself to look for pictures for your presentation. You can if you want to. But honor that time as if you would honor the time for another appointment. If you schedule a time to, I've got a luncheon date with a couple of friends tomorrow. That's going to be on my calendar, and I'm going to do it short of anything going wrong drastically with her or me. Okay? What we tend to do is take a look and say, oh, well, I was going to go the pictures, and while somebody else comes up and they need me, and it's like, no, keep that time and do that. because that's your time. You need to do it. You don't need to change your time for somebody else just because they want that time better. Your time is precious and valuable as well. And we can talk about that at some other point in time too. But at least you got started on this. Think in terms of that phrase, I don't have the time to do it, and yet you could find the time at the tail end of something to cancel 2 days or 3 days or whatever it is for your last minute tasks to get it all done. If you can do it then, you can do it beforehand too. Tell me that you can. So give me an example. Contact me. Give me an example in which you have to, absolutely, positively have to wait and do everything at the last minute and then you can't do anything ahead of time. Everything that you know when you've got a task that you knew about for a week or more than that. Granted, if it's something that shows up and it's like 2 days and you just discover it, that's a totally different issue. But when you know that you've got time to do it, what's your excuse about why you can't set the time up ahead of time? Okay? Just think about this and see whether you would disagree with me on this point. How many times have you said you don't have the time, but yet you can make the time to do it if you really need to, if you wanted to, because you needed to do something else? Okay? Think about it. And we'll chat about some of those other little details later. Okay, we'll chat with you later. See you. Which one would you want me to talk about first? Let me know. Bye.